said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch! You filthy... State of fear. Welcome back to Flyover State of Fear with Brian and myself, Joe. How is everyone doing? How are you doing, Brian? What's going on? What's new?
You know, man, I'm just sitting back, kicking back, watching the fall of the American Empire. You know?
I love that we picked such an uplifting film this week, too, to be like...
It's hard on a horror podcast. How do you pick a cheery horror movie? You know?
Well, you could pick like dumb, silly, like, you know, Werewolves Within, Cabin in the Woods.
You know, maybe I might have an idea for next week. A newer movie.
You know, like on a weekly basis, if we were trying to do what was relevant in the news, it'd be like American Psycho.
Yeah.
Or something. But we already did that on this show.
And doing it?
No one's going to listen to this podcast, so...
It was kind of
it was a guest star.
Full disclosure, I did not see that episode.
This was with a friend of the show and a good horror companion. You could look this up yourself, but...
Real De Niro, actually.
Yeah, we're... But no. Yeah, things are bleak, but you know it's not bleak when we're able to get together and
when
chat.
You hang out with my boy. That's you can't complain about that.
It's so funny. I do this weekly, or daily. I'm sure as you do on some recording days where I'm like, man, I gotta watch the movie. I'm tired. I watch it, and then the minute we sit down and do our pre-talk and that, I'm like, nah, ready to go, ready.
Yeah, now I'm psyched up and I'm ready.
Hours leading up to, I'm like, kind of tired.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like catching up on Daredevil with Harrison, being like, "Oh, if I lean the chair back, I'm definitely gonna fall asleep, so I better not do that." But then when it's time to hit when the fucking get on stage, the spotlight hits me, I come to life.
Like he was just falling asleep, and then we put this powder up his nose, and he was ready to go.
Little Bolivian marching powder, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at me, I'm Deadpool now.
Oh.
This is movie related, so we can talk about it. We did, full disclosure, me and Harrison went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine in the theater.
I saw it there
and it was a fun time, nostalgic for an old timer like me from the old way back in the Fox era. But I tried to give it I put it on and I didn't get through it. Like,
oh really? I
fell asleep. And then, I started to watch it again, and I stopped in the middle, and then I never went back to it, and, things just kept taking priority. And it's not like it was bad, but I just, I had no urgency with it.
I think it's very much, so I liked it in the theaters.
Yeah.
I did too. I left. Same thing, good theater experience. Really, really, really enjoyed it. We watched it when it was a new release, I think for Christmas. I was like, oh, Laura would really like this. She likes the first two. She'll find it funny. And it was a fine at-home watching experience. Like, we had a good time watching it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, this was a pure, built for the movie theater.
Yeah. In the same way that Spider-Man No Way Home, which I think is a better movie, to be fair, than Deadpool.
Yeah,
and Wolverine,
we watched.
But it had that same kind of where, it didn't hit as hard at home, that first time.
I watched that for the first time, or the second time for the theaters, this year too. That hit. That actually gave me it was enough time in between seeing where I'm like, actually, this is a pretty fucking good movie.
Yeah, I think it's quite a bit better than Deadpool Wolverine, if I'm being honest. But this is not a Marvel podcast, people.
No,
we talk about horror movies.
We talk about pussy. No, we talk about horror.
Oh shit! We are Deadpool. We make cocaine reference. We make pussy reference.
Jeez, now we just need a homoerotic reference. I wish there was someone here who could be like coming in the frame and they just like their dick would be right there.
Right, I was gonna say, like I could say something about how handsome Joe is and how I want him to rail me up the behind or whatever.
Yeah. And they'd be like, oh, I'd love to take it.
Yeah, I'd be like, Joe. If anyone, it would make it Joe. Look how beautiful he is.
And look how musk and handsome Brian is.
Mm-hmm. I'm very bear-like, check out my OnlyFans. I got that, like, husky build,
Ooh, could you rub lotion on your shoulders?
Yeah, like, okay, I just got these big, meaty paws. Oh, I put my hands all over you.
No, Sarah, I'm working. All right.
Sarah got a job. I also got a new job.
I have disposable income now. Mm-hmm. Oh, Harrison, another Lego set. Just don't come in the office.
Go build this while Daddy sets up the ring light.
Between 8 and, I don't know, midnight. Why are you leaving dinner so early? Oh, I just got a call. Snap. That's fun. But no, we were talking before. So I really don't have anything from our last recording to report on of things that I find interesting that I've been watching. So if you got something or whatever,
I do. I thought I didn't either, but because I just watch just so many movies, I forget sometimes. I have one new release. But before that, I will say that I got a little treat. Pop gets a treat. Got an order in from Arrow Video, and a couple of movies that I watched that would fit this category for this show. I watched American Werewolf in London, an absolute fucking banger, classic. Despite being made by John Landis.
That is one, because you got the Arrow one. Arrow, that's I feel like they're like been, one you go for years on and it's always available. Mm-hmm. I need to pull the trigger on that Arrow American Werewolf in London.
Very nice. I mean, obviously they do quality work all the time. And then the other one that I think is a good fit here. This is one that I had never seen before. It might have been last year, but like within the last year. Mm-hmm. And kind of like slipped under the radar, and I finally watched it and really loved it. And it's called Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge.
Did you like that?
I love it. I thought it was so fun. I think it's real cheesy and real like, because it's like 89, so it's like kind of at the tail end. It's like, but it's real campy and stuff, and I had a real good time with that.
Okay,
but I would also be like fully understanding not everybody's taste. You know what I mean? It's very camp.
I watched it in I watched a Joe Bob Briggs broadcast of it.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it. I had a fun time, but I didn't love it. Like, I think the way it was talked about and presented, I personally remember expecting.
You thought you were going to expect a little more from it?
Oh, more in the camp sense from it.
Okay.
Like, not going and be like, oh, is this horror? I was like, oh, it does its job. It was more on the line of like, not because they're mall related, from my opinion, it was more on the line of like a chopping mall.
Okay,
than it was, than it was a sleepaway camp.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I think that's a fair assessment.
But that's cool though. Those are honestly the movies I like. Something like, although hypocritically, something like Phantom of the Mall. What was it? Phantom Mall? Whatever. Eric's Revenge.
Yeah,
that's something I want that's something I would love on my shelf in my collection. If it was like, you're like, it was $8 or whatever. Oh, yeah. Because it's cool. Like, those are cool ass pieces.
Right.
Which is not a great reason to own a movie, but
yeah, that's okay though. It's all right for clout. The new release that I watched was the Spider monster movie Sting.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was a fun little monster movie. I mean, it was pretty much what you would expect, but it was a good time.
Cool.
Fun little, like 90-minute, kind of like claustrophobic little, like, it all takes place mostly in like an apartment building, kind of.
Where'd you check that out at?
It was definitely a streamer somewhere.
Yeah.
I just cannot remember which one now because there's so many.
Yeah, we just had a long.
But it's definitely streaming for free on either Hulu, Peacock, Disney Plus,
Tubi,
Max, or Amazon. One of those.
Okay, so check it out. That's good.
So Google it. I don't know. I'm not your mom.
Awesome, man. But it's funny we're mentioning about buying movies and like, to watch. This is exactly how we've led to The Brood. I got that on the Criterion half off sale, and
Nice.
now it has become a concerted effort to go, we should watch movies as well as you that we're buying instead of just putting it on the shelf and never probably getting to it or getting to it years later.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm gonna add the Brood Criterion to my Amazon wish list while we're sitting right here.
Brood, movie I'd never seen, but it was one of those, like, I like to throw always a little gamble on those big sales. I also just love a horror Criterion.
So this was the first time watch for you.
This is the first time watch for me.
Oh wow, okay.
Huh.
I've seen it before. I'd only seen it once, but I had seen it before.
No, it was the first time watch, and it, like I said, it was a blind buy, but I trusted its legacy, and I do try to.
Yeah, I mean, we can start talking about the movie whenever. We might as well. This is like kind of the beginning of Cronenberg's like really hot streak, right? He does this and Scanners and The Dead Zone and The Fly
and
all in like succession, up through
I can pull up his
Dead
IMDb.
So like he really has a run here, and this is kind of the first. I mean, he'd been directing things, but this is the first, like, I would say, classic Cronenberg, right? The first movie in his filmography that like people really remember.
He really breaks. I think from what I read is like it's a really big breakout.
Yeah.
Of who is this guy? It's around that time. It's around that time too. Of I would say that the movie, like the type of movie it is. Sure. It also makes a huge punch of like, oh shit, Canadian cinema's doing this in 1979. Yeah, because before this he does like something like Shivers. I'm not going to pretend I know what that is.
No, I'm not familiar with
it is, but yeah, but really looks like if you're going even by name recognition, some TV series, something called Fast Company, but then it's The Brood, and then it's Scanners, Videodrome, The Dead Zone, The Fly, all the way through the 80s, and then like you have Friday the 13th, the TV series, one episode, that's pretty
pops
fun.
Up a little there. And then, of course, don't forget his cameo in Jason X. The most important work of his career.
Oh, hell yeah. Love a weird director. We'll love a weird...
Yeah.
And then there's like
a little bit... I know we talked a little bit about Cronenberg with Lon when we did Infinity Pool.
Yeah.
And I admitted to... struggling with some of his more kind of bizarre stuff and like, getting a little more lost and being like, and saying that's what I liked about Brandon Cronenberg was he seemed a little bit more focused sometimes,
Yeah.
But that's the thing about being a mad genius and making like crazy art is sometimes you can't reach every dummy like me.
Well, I don't think that. I think also like, that's a good point. I mean, I've definitely been like, some of this stuff, like I like
this one is pretty straightforward for sure.
This is really
but like and like as is The Fly. But if something like Videodrome has some more like
I like Videodrome. And
definitely some of his more recent stuff, like if you watched what was that, Crimes of the Future and stuff. Some very bizarre things. He's definitely got goes out in some, but I like that he has the freedom to do that. I don't want him to not do that.
Yeah, I
make whatever weird shit you want to make.
Yeah, I mean, hell, even like actually, wow, all three Criterions, Scanners and Videodrome, and now The Brood. It's like Scanners and Videodrome really get out there, but Videodrome's one of those ones that makes me laugh today because I look at it, I'm like, Mr. Asshole Conservative Curmudgeon James Woods is this lead where he's growing a vagina in his stomach and putting a videotape into it. And then today he's online being like,
there's only two genders. Yeah. Well, what gender is that, James Woods? Yeah. What gender is the guy with the videotape in his belly?
Yeah. I like the sentiment you have to say a lot too. Like I appreciate a filmmaker like David Cronenberg and how out there he'll get. And like I still have a lot more to, I'm sure as you do, of his filmography to discover. Like I've never seen Extends or a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of his 90s stuff are...
I had only seen The Dead Zone, like, within the last 5 years, probably.
That's
like,
just good Christopher Walken. That's what that is.
It is classic Walken. Although I can't help but be spoiled by the SNL sketch that they did when it was like around the time, obviously, after this came out. It's probably 80s SNL or early 90s. And it's like every time he touches somebody, he gets like some mundane like vision of their future, like you're going to get some coffee. It's going to be hot. Not too hot though. It'll be fine. But he does the like good. If he touches him, he does the walking thing where he like stops and it's like very funny.
That's good.
But of course, I had no frame of reference, and then until years later, I saw the movie. Like I knew what it was from, but I had
it's hard to get. It's hard.
Then when you're watching it, you can't help but snicker when he's doing it in earnest, and
And this had to have been mentioned by us on this show before. If your introduction to, especially horror, any piece of media is a parody, it's really hard to go, all right, now I'm going to enjoy this movie. Like, I know, like, my generation, a big one is, like, people cannot watch, or if they saw Scary Movie 3 first, where they parodied The Ring, they can't, with, with Rhonda fighting the Ring girl, I'm like, Sydney! Like I know, like, that's a big one for the horror. People like, I can't watch The Ring. It's just this fucking movie, or The Shining. I'm sorry, or Signs of that generation, or even on the other end, like Laura's favorite movies, Not Another Teen Movie. We did a flyover on it, and I remember, which this isn't a good movie. Remember when we watched She's All That? She's like, this is just not another teen movie. I mean, like, look, and almost script for script. I'm like, yeah.
That started with the first Scary Movie where they basically did that with Scream. I mean, not obviously the Zucker brothers did a similar. That's Airplane is that. But sure. I don't even know if those ones are as like exact. I mean, they point it out in Scary Movie that they're like, no, it's the script. Like, it's right here.
I think like Airplane. I'm not too familiar with like that disaster movie of like, the Poseidon Adventure,
Airport, or like Airport 77 or whatever.
A Towering Inferno. But I think something like The Naked Gun and like Police Story, like that's when they took it and they're like, okay, we're just gonna remake. Anyway, so yeah, I get what you're saying though of it's real hard to do but that's like even, today, The Brood, which would be, I haven't seen,
Yeah, this is a first time watch for Joe.
This is a first time watch for me. The only thing of that parallel I could think of, but it definitely wasn't what they were parodying, was the Simpsons, God, they had a thing where remember the episode where God, what was the parody movie called in it? But anyway, they ban kids from being out on a curfew and they sneak out to the drive-in and they're it's definitely spoofing like the Village of the Damned.
Village of the Damned, yeah.
But the the kids were the towhead like kind of kids.
Well, I was thinking there's a moment in this movie where they're describing the little dwarf, the Brood, as it were, and I was like, oh, they think it's a Hugo. And so speaking of Simpsons reference, they're like the mother probably had a deformed child and kept it hidden in the attic or something. I was like, oh, they think it's a Hugo. They think they got a Hugo.
Hugo. Oh, so good. But no, so yeah, The Brood, I didn't know what to expect. I honestly, by artwork and description, I think I was expecting, even though it is, about motherhood and everything, I don't know why I was expecting it more to be in straight line with something like Possession.
Okay.
In the way it handles and you're following more of like the female protagonist or the female lead, I should say, of it. I was expecting that more than to be more of a story about like the father dealing with all these challenges.
Yeah, like it's interesting. So you start off with you got Oliver Reed, and he's playing like Well, he's playing Dr. Raglan, but he's like this kind of unorthodox psychologist who does this kind of combination of like talk therapy and role playing and kind of like immersion. He also like has the people like living in some kind of compound with him all the time.
That was the compound, but they're like doing, I mean, the way it starts, like almost like stage plays of the trauma itself.
But also the trauma, like something about, well, they give it a name. I wrote it down because I wanted to remember. Psychoplasmics.
Yes.
So it's like somehow like his method is to like it like affects their physical body. Like the very beginning scene, he's having that dialogue with the beard guy Michael, who comes back later, and like he starts to get these boils like as they're talking, and like it like physically manifests, and obviously that's gonna play out in the rest of the movie. But like there's also like a culty faith healer element to it. They're wearing like kimonos. It looks very culty, you know.
It is, but like later in the one guy like kind of like not escapes, but he gets out and he's so disheveled of it. Yeah, it's an interesting setup that like you don't spend too much time there, so there's so much questions on what the fuck is going on there.
Yeah, like definitely, honestly. If this was a real place, I would fully expect a Netflix documentary revealing that it was a weird sex cult. Like that this guy was like trapping these mentally like deranged people and then like forcing them into do weird sex acts.
But then they're just and they have these broods that just feed them the lube.
Yeah. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, of course. They just assist with the.
They come in when they wipe down the loads.
I'm not here to wipe down. No, I mean, because that's the point. Like something like Nola, like it almost feels like she's there secluded on her own comparatively to like any other patient.
I mean, you kind of do find out that's the case. You don't really see. You know that. That she's living there and that other patients are there, but you don't really see, like you said, that they don't really show you much of the facility or the goings on there. The only time we really spend there is when we're seeing Nola and Dr. Raglan's like sessions, you know, their psychiatry sessions, and usually that's just like, you know, coverage back and forth of them talking head style. There's not really like much of the facility or how it works or like where anybody. You don't get a reference for where anyone is in comparison to each other, which is part of like the mystery of the movie later, I guess. You know.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like you kind of get some things of, but still not really. When like go back to just make sure I'm using the names. When Frank,
by the way, Frank's from Black Christmas. He's a old favorite of ours. He's one of the guys. He's the guy who's like, when they go to the police station and they ask, we always laugh about is he's got like the most Canadian sounding dialogue because they're like, oh, are you her boyfriend or whatever? And he's like, yeah, I'm taking her out.
There was a couple of boots in this. The school teacher. She had that thick.
Yeah, she had some good Canadianisms, absolutely.
But yeah, with the results on the staying on where we're at with the compound itself, the really only other insight you do get is when Frank goes, I'm going to get some testimonials of how, you know, you're doing this, and the one guy that's suffering from who has like the real mental breakdown, and that's kind of when we learn
the guy with the beard, Michael.
Yeah,
right?
That's when we learn about the psychoplasma stuff. But he doesn't. It's not psoriasis, but he has his thing is something like
he gets like boils or something or some kind of
That's all interesting. But yeah, so it starts off with that thing, and like my first was like, oh, they're starting to play, which I can only imagine is going to give us some sort of explanation of the themes we're out to see. But
no, it's like some public. It's like he's doing a public showing of his method with this guy, and Frank is there watching, and then we find out that also his wife is a patient.
Yeah, his wife's a patient,
and he picks his daughter up from there, like she's been visiting.
Yeah, we find out that it is in his contract, or in his ex-wife's contract, ex-wife.
Yeah, I don't know. Are they still married? I think
they're
maybe?
separated. I mean, this movie is written in for David Cronenberg's manifestation of his divorce.
Ah,
It
fair.
makes you think, how fucking bad was your divorce?
Yeah, no kidding, dude. Jesus.
But that's what it is, and if you do look at it, and we were just talking about his filmography, this is definitely the most emotional and like human and mean his movies have ever been. His movies are usually so like, even like something like The Fly, like clinical in its horror.
Okay. Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Yeah.
So this is very his heart on his sleeve, and that's probably where it's like
This is him at his most Spielberg, where he's like, I got some shit to work out.
oh my God, have you been listening? You don't listen to Blank Check Pod, do you?
No.
They've been going through, they've been going through early Spielberg now, and just the amount of times they bring up of like, you're just working shit out, dude, and it basically doesn't stop till like, Schindler's List.
Yeah. Well, that's just because he focuses he's like, well, now I want to do stuff about like my generational trauma instead of like my direct emotional trauma from my dad.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is like,
that's kind of why I can't watch The Fabelmans, because I was like, he's been doing this for 20, 30 years. I got to watch a movie about it. Like,
just watch Close Encounters.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the roughest one. That's the one to me. I like that movie a lot. I just rewatch it, but going, like a man choosing, like, don't need my kid and wife.
Yeah. Sorry, I got to peace out with aliens.
And like even like another like female character, like, yeah, join me. It'd be fine. We'll go up there and nuts. But
what movie were we talking about? Oh yeah,
The Brood. But in The Brood, he so it's this and it does start off this way, but he, it's a quiet movie. What I was saying. That's why I do find these movies sometimes hard for us to talk about and really, go into until we start getting into them.
Well, because it does start kind of like a family drama.
Oh, it is. It is.
He notices these signs of abuse on his daughter.
Too many shots in this movie of shirtless child.
Yeah. It really gets weird later when it starts off with him just photographing her. He feels like he's doing like artsy nudes, and then you find out that it's because he's taking pictures of her bruised back to take to his lawyer. But like, also, couldn't he have just shown up at the lawyer with those pictures? Do we need the scene of him like romantically taking the pictures of her?
I'll push back on the word romantic, but it's that.
I don't know. She was like at a window, at like a sunny window with like a flower and the back of her dress down. It was really weirdly framed. It didn't need to be like that. It didn't feel, you talk about clinical, it needed to feel clinical.
Yeah.
And it didn't.
Yeah, so you know what it needed to feel like? Because we talked about it recently. The way photograph wise, the way in Candyman, Virginia Madsen's like photograph from after the murder, like she's naked, but it's so in a shot of
like the most unsexualized anything could possibly be. It's so traumatic. It's
Virginia Madsen, not a 3-year-old or whatever, 5-year-old. No, that was a note of mine, which again, it's not. I'm not pointing it out to be perverted or anything. It's like, oh wow,
no, obviously not. It's a thing of the times. They, you hope to think that they weren't really even thinking about that sort of thing.
That's why.
But also, it's the late 70s, and there was a weird thing about like sexualization of young girls and that and like kind of normalizing it at that time and stuff. So like again, there's just like some undertones that I think there's no reason you could have had all this without like he could have presented the pictures to his lawyer. We don't need to see the scene where he takes the pictures.
For me, it's not just the photo. It's the bath and how long you're just like looking at like naked child.
Yeah.
because the camera doesn't do the thing where it would do now, where you'd have like close-ups of like.
We just don't do stuff like that anymore because YouTube taught us that there's like pervs out there who like we were in denial about the idea that there were pervs who would watch, who would see it, like have a gross feeling about something as innocent as like a child in the bathtub. But now we know that YouTube like
I think that
drew all those people out, and like those type of videos, people would post these like innocuous family videos and then get all these likes because what you find out is that creeps are watching their fucking kids, you know?
Yeah, I think it's innocent. I'll say this, and to wrap it back home, I think it's innocently done, just like the way that you said, like, I don't know, I was a kid who took his clothes off all the time, and mom would take a ton of photos, and they exist in the world, you know?
Yeah.
Not in the world, in stuff, and it's a thing people did in that regard. So I think it's shot innocently, but in hindsight,
at the time, but again, it's just like anything else, it ages and the time we live in.
Just because it's one note and we're talking about it, the end of the movie when the girl's holding the door, when Candy's holding the door, and one of the broods lifts up, like there's no need for like this shot to happen of like.
Yeah, again, exactly. Like that's a thing that could have easily been avoided. Like you just didn't need to have that happen.
Like I get it's raw and it's in panic, and it's not. Anyway, so he notices these. He noted on his daughter, who's quiet. She's quiet the whole fucking time. His tow-headed daughter. He notices these marks on her back. One looks like a bite mark, some bruising,
some bite marks, some weird uncomfortable stuff.
And this is like, then we kind of go right back to this the therapist's office, and Frank kind of rolls up and goes to Oliver Reed, like, he doesn't even want to shake his hand. He goes, "What did you do to my daughter?" Or not him. Because what did my daughter do to her? I got to speak to my wife. And that's when we learn, she's in her treatment. You can't see your wife, but your daughter can because we agreed to those rules.
Yeah.
And she didn't harm her. That's a crazy accusation.
Yeah.
And
he's like, I'm not bringing her back. I'm not gonna bring her back for visitation. And then his lawyer is like, advises caution, is like, "Hey, Frank, take it easy. This is the 70s when supposedly the moms have all the power." It's funny, I was talking to Sarah about this. That was a thing for a long time. And I think you'll still see a lot of kind of men's rightsy like types talk about it, how like women get preferential treatment in like custody, hearings, and like
common...
when it comes to child, like that's when it comes to children. But I think that stems, and like, again, this is kind of speculation, but like when you spin out some of these things, I feel like that stems from like back when divorces were new, and like people getting custody was new, and like the only time people got divorces were when the dudes were total fucking monsters, and like you could prove in court that like literally they were dangerous, so it made sense to give the mother more rights and protect the children. Always. And then like that became more of a norm, and then when people started having divorces for more normal reasons, the stuff that was in place was geared more towards the mothers, but I think it's only because of the way it started. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's a relic of that. And I think it's more balanced now anyway. I do think you'll see men's rights activist types be like, "Oh, well, it's good. It's prejudiced against the father and blah, blah, blah. And husbands don't have the same rights as wives." But I think that's kind of horse shit, honestly.
It's probably more horse shit than that. I just think it's just like, God, I can't believe I'm about to use this comparison for something like this. It's like systematic racism. I think it's inherently like, by default, you're like, well, of course it would need to be with the like.
Well, it's funny. It's just like, and that's the thing. It's like the thing about the world. You look at the world and you're like, okay, you're trying to convince me that there's a system that's geared against men. I find that hard to believe, honestly.
Like, no, if it may be because it's Canada and America were the same fucking thing especially them.
Yeah, they got.
I'd say if
10 years behind.
If they want to, I'm sure in the 70s and earlier, if the man wanted that child from a court, they would go, "Yes, sir."
Yeah, exactly. If he could, well, also, especially in this case where the mom is in an institution and the dad's like, she's got I took these pictures of her bruised back. Do you think maybe I could get sole custody now? I think those
she
sort of
was with her
situations.
mother.
I don't know. I just thought it was kind of funny that the lawyer's like, I don't know, be careful. I was like, really? I think he's got a pretty solid case here.
Also, like, I think he just doesn't have to bring her there. Like, they're so secluded. But in that,
I mean, also in those like kind of visitation cases, there usually has to be like a safe space with a chaperone and stuff like that, and that sort of a situation.
That's what this movie completely, right? We don't really see the mother or any of that stuff till the very end of the film.
Yeah.
Cuts all that out of just hearsay.
Yeah, we don't really see Candace and the mother together at all.
We see the mother doing therapy for some of it, and every therapy session, to me, is almost just a recreation of that intro theater where I kept going, are they doing this on stage or are they doing this in a room? Because it's the same conversation.
It does. It feels like a two-hander. It feels like an improv scene, like when you're just watching two actors. But I do think it's hilarious. I was like, I love how movies in the 70s treated like therapy the way that movies in the 90s treat the internet. Is like, we don't know what it does. It can kind of do anything. It can be anything. I think about The Exorcist 2, where it's like, hey, maybe this is what therapy is.
There's a lot of machines and white robes.
Maybe a person rolls a big nut behind who knows? But I did like that, like, yeah, their therapy sessions are very funny. It's kind of and maybe this is a rewatch thing, because obviously every therapy session sets up a kill, right? Mm-hmm. Every time she has a breakthrough or like was talking to Raglan, which is Oliver Reed's character, about somebody, that ends up being the person who gets attacked by the Brood.
Yeah, and the Brood, I will tell you this. The Brood's GPS is like where they know where things are.
They're locked on.
Because the first one is her mother.
Her mother, yeah, Nola's mother.
Nola's mother,
who is wearing a choker. Amazing.
I didn't notice. What? Yes, no, she is, and. Oh boy, she's drinking J&B whiskey like it's
hell yeah, she's just like Cokes. Throwing back J&B.
I have a moment about that. So she's because Frank's running around finding all these things, he calls the grandmother to come take care of Candy, and so she's watching Candy and everything, and this is when we get our first like Brood attack, right? They're like trying to punch.
We see the therapy session.
Yeah,
and like the breakthrough is Nola kind of implies that she was abused by her mother, and then that is like what it's like. It's that sparks the attack, right?
Why would a mother ever, why a mother wouldn't have?
Also, there's a little drop here where it's important for the rest of the movie where the grandmother mentions that she used to take Nola to the hospital. She got these ugly bumps. She would get these little bumps on her skin.
Yeah, we took her that. We couldn't figure out why, but one day it was okay, and you met her. And but Nola, they also talk about, a big theme in it. A mother would never hurt her child, and then, well, maybe she would, and that's when this Brood ends up happening. So one of them comes in, but before that, the lead up. She goes, okay, dear, I'll freshen up your drink and mine as well. Her glass has already like half full of like whiskey into it.
Hell yeah.
And I'm like, fuck. It was very like top. It was in, he's like, I'm going to top. You want more lemonade? I'm going to top myself off when I
I'm already going out to the kitchen, so fuck it.
I mean, listen, I get it.
But they do give the impression that she's she's kind of a boozy, Later we meet the husband, I think Frank is the one who, after she gets murdered, is talking to the cops and is like, well, she had lots of gentlemen suitors. I didn't know all her boyfriends or whatever. So you get the impression that maybe she had a little bit of a wild side.
She was cool. Cool.
Which means
we support her. Because they say, oh, no, she hasn't been with her husband in 10 years. Then we meet her husband in, like, the next couple scenes. But no, it's an interesting scene because it's this hand breaks through this, like, doggy door kind of. Yeah. And then just, like, they just trash the kitchen. and they take a meat cleaver.
I was gonna say that they
hammer.
kind of I like the kitchen trashing and the noise. I think is to kind of draw the grandma in, right?
Mhm.
To kind of like she comes to investigate. And they get her, and they beat her with a meat tenderizer. The Brood love a little hammer. They
And
go
you
to
don't
work with some. They go to work with some little wood hammers later too.
real Chucky, real Child's
I was
Play
gonna say,
1.
do we think also it's never said explicitly, but I would say it seems like the Brood have like a little bit of like enhanced strength. They seem like probably stronger than a little kid.
They have to. The way they can take shit, especially when
Like I'll tell you what, like 3 or 4 of them mob and take down Oliver Reed, and we know that like no Oliver Reed would punch a ton of kids. Like ain't no way that children would take down Oliver Reed, so they must be
Yeah.
strong.
But even the grandpa, when he gets taken down, like that's a very easy it's taken a little too easy for like that
Yeah.
man should have been ready.
Yeah.
But
No,
no,
how old? I'll punch a little kid. So
I think they have extra strength, especially like the first even the first one. It's just like one of them, and you're like,
the
you
first one,
can't
the one that gets grandma is just a lone
can't-
wolf.
fight back a little bit on him. But so she gets just straight up hammer beat with a hammer. They do the great thing where you see little bits of what this.
Yeah, you don't really get a good look at the Brood
Love
wing yet. A flash here, a flash there.
Love it. And later they.
I do love that they wear little snowsuits. That their whole thing is that they look like little kids, and then they wear the little snowsuits.
Do they have different? My big question is, do they have different outfits for the different seasons?
Oh yeah, because this was the winter. Like, do you think they have little springtime outfits?
Yeah. Do they have a springtime outfit?
They dress like the Von Trapp family.
Yeah. Do we have it laid out? Because when it's jarring at the end of the movie when you see how many of these there have been.
Yeah.
Like she is pumping these broods out to the point where it's like, do they come out that size?
Yeah, I would. Well, I don't know. We see her kind of birth one. I think they just grow fast.
They grow fast because they're all about the same age, and they're sharing like.
Well, and we know that they get about this. They're like the size we see them. This is about the size they like die out. They will just like they're not long for this world. They're temporary. They have. Like when they do the autopsy, when they finally kill one, and they do an alien autopsy on it.
No blood.
When they talk about how it has like a little yolk sac and like basically it's like a little power thing, and when that thing's used up, they're done. They just die.
Yeah, so we kind of understand their biology and lore, but
I love that they like a lot of times you would not want that stuff, but I kind of like how specific they were about the stuff in the autopsy. Like they talked about how it had a hair lip but not a cleft palate, and then no teeth, but the gums were like beak-like, and it's just all so much. I like it. Really adds to just like the creepy weirdness of them. You know,
I think they're I think they're a creepy creature. They fucking. There's like I said, there's so many of them, and this movie has me like thinking of how that catalyst, right? So this whole thing is just a physical manifestation of her trauma, of her life.
Yeah, that's what's happening. And it's, I guess, if you were gonna talk about it in our current terms of elevated horror,
that's wrong.
It's generational trauma because the mother passes it to her. She eventually passes it to Candace.
Yeah, it's funny because that is the blueprint, and maybe the Brood does, maybe it doesn't get its flowers here or there, of all of these elevated horror movies that do this, right? So the Babadook would be, I think, the big one.
The Woman in the Yard, if you want like Babadook for dummies.
You saw that, and that's what I heard.
I did. It was not very good.
I heard bad things, and I also just heard.
Man, it had a good trailer though. God damn, it had a good fucking trailer.
I heard.
And I'll tell you what, the performance of the lady who's actually playing the Woman in the Yard is fantastic.
Yeah, these are all things I think that are common. What people are saying. I was a little bummed, but there's that one. Cobweb was kind of this,
Sure. Yeah.
But there's a lot of these, and I look, I'm like, and I'm sure it was done before the Brood, but like there's that. This is what it is. I'm shocked we haven't had a Brood remake. I know in the Wikipedia, it says
nobody's tried to remake a Cronenberg movie yet.
It says it was tried in like 2009, and then like whomever was attached left in 2011. So, and no one should try to remake.
No, honestly, you could make a new version of this idea, but don't try to remake this. Like,
This is actually, speaking of remakes, this is with the whole therapy angle and everything. This is primed for a nice 2006 to 2008 remake. Because they all had that feeling, like the Omen remake has this, like I could see it, or like
yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Or like there was, what was that one with oh god, there were a couple with Robert De Niro.
Like hide and seek.
There was couldn't you see this movie in the tone of hide and seek, or like
absolutely, like an early aughts kind of like absolutely.
Oh, what's the other one that he was in? He wasn't the star of it, but it was that he was like a therapist. Anyway, it's the same thing. Like, your kid's evil. I'm doing Godsend, I think it's called.
Okay, all right.
Right? Is that what it's called? And yeah. Wow, I got autism. How did I remember?
No, it's fine. I'm glad that you're right, though. I'm glad this did not get that treatment. And I think now we realize that you can't really remake these Cronenberg movies because he's so distinct. His style is so distinct. So as far as this one goes, Grandma dies. They're like, oh, Candace probably saw something. She's probably all messed up from it. I'll tell you one thing, though. We talk about the generational trauma from Nola and the mom, and maybe she's abusing the daughter, but also Frank is fully neglecting his daughter. If his daughter is actually being abused, he's just dumping her off with people, and she keeps having these traumatic experiences, and he keeps just like scooping her up from them and then taking her and dropping her off somewhere else.
Everyone, I mean, it's straight up jarring that the fucking grandpa comes in.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, like, maybe Frank needs some help, and, like, that's why Grandpa shows up, or maybe to deal with Grandma's affairs now that she died or whatever. But, yeah,
he's neglecting.
I just was like, I know this is one of those situations, like, I'm always hypercritical of dads in movies, but also, like, if specifically the narrative of your movie is that this guy is supposed to be protecting his daughter from abuse, maybe don't have him constantly abandoning her. Like,
well,
when she's more likely to get abused? When he's not there to keep an eye on her.
And then, we also have the other one that comes in, speaking of being an eye on her, the very pretty school teacher. Who
notably keeps trying to kind of talk to Frank about Candace, and he is just not interested. He's not having it. He cannot make time to hear what this teacher has to say about his daughter.
He picks her up, right? And she goes, I would like to talk to you about your daughter.
Yeah.
And something's wrong because the girl doesn't say anything and walks away. I mean, what kid? Oh, bye. Wouldn't go to their teacher all day. Bye. But yeah, and then she comes over again, and there's no interest of actually talking about of Candace, and that's the one where I'm like, why did the Brood come? What was so bad about the Brood coming after her?
Well, yeah, I mean, no big loss there, I guess.
Because she was teaching the youth.
Well, I think it was that. Because obviously, like I said, there's a therapy scene that goes with everything. Doesn't she think that doesn't Nola think that Frank is replacing her and that they're having a relationship, and that's why that's why the teacher gets brooded?
Yes, but it's not it's just not the case. There's a
also the teacher gets attacked. She survives though, but I like that she kind of gives up too. She's kind of I feel bad for Candace obviously, but she does kind of just is you know what? I tried. This is too much for me. She's like,
She just goes with
I'm
them.
bailing. And then you see her later, and she's like, hey, don't come up, don't talk to me about your bullshit though.
She just goes, all right, I'll go with you, broods.
Yeah. He's like,
They
you
come
know
into the
what?
classroom with their jumpers, and then there's this great shot of them walking on the highway, all three of them in their jumpsuit, all three of them in their snowsuits. It looks like an indie album cover.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, they all just look good because, like, obviously, a part of it too, in terms of the thematics of it and all of this is Candace is the main, like,
Right. That's
main
they
brood.
they say something about that when I guess the teacher does eventually get killed in front of the whole class.
Yeah,
And
so
everybody
the
gets traumatized.
teacher does get killed.
I guess I just meant isn't there an initial attack that she makes it through or something? Maybe not. Maybe no. What it is? I'm sorry, I was mistaken. He leaves to go because Grandpa calls when they're together. He leaves. That's who gets attacked.
Mhm.
He by the time he gets there, Grandpa's
Yeah,
dead.
Grandpa
And then when he
gives some
comes
yell-
back. When he comes back and there's another death, that's when the teacher's like, you know what? I'm cashing out here. I'm not. It's
she
not.
goes.
It's like, you know what? I actually don't have anything to say about your kid. Your kid's fine. Bye.
Yeah, so it was a little intense for me. I'm done.
Yeah. But that does not save her.
No.
The brood shows up at the classroom, and man, talk about some traumatized kids. No kid in this movie is ever going to be okay.
Because also the kids in this movie, one day they're like, one day these little deformed kids came into our room and murdered our teacher, and then just left with another
Well,
kid.
even the way the kid who runs out to get help is trying to explain, it's very like well-written child dialogue where he doesn't even have the words to convey what he saw.
Mhm.
Like he doesn't even know how to explain what the murder he just watched.
Yeah. So they take Candy.
This is when you get the great scene where they're walking hand in hand down
It's great.
the highway. But yeah, this is where they mention, is it Oliver Reed who says it, or I can't remember, but like basically the idea that they see her as the brood sees her as one of them. Like she came essentially from the same place.
Oliver Reed. So we could jump. I think we could jump there. So like, there's just some time in between. Like his daughter's gone. He kind of puts two and two together. I got to go to the.
We don't realize it right away, but what's happening is that Oliver Reed knows.
That's what I'm saying.
He knows the brood is getting out. He knows they're attacking people. That's why he sends all the other patients away from the facility.
Mhm.
And that's why the Michael guy freaks out and goes to Frank, and that's how Frank learns more about the facility and about what's going on there.
So to answer your question, yeah, Oliver Reed does in that ending say, yeah, your daughter is the catalyst. She needs, and almost was, even though he does help her, she needs to be here.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing, but like, we can't separate her from your mother, or these broods. They are only after that. Even like, I love that scene with Oliver Reed though rescuing Candy, because that is what happens.
Oh yeah.
The way he enters and tries to get her, and like the brood are just watching him, animalistically, like if you were to try to sneak in.
Yeah, because we can say the final plan basically after Frank gets more information from that Michael guy and finds out more about the facility and that like Nola's being kept separately. When he goes there to confront Raglan, Raglan's like pretty open with him about what's been going on. He's like, I mean, definitely there's an element of like he's like studying her, but he's also like, this is a completely unique situation. I'm just trying to like
He's managing the situation.
Yeah.
But he's also
the whole idea is that Frank is going to go talk to her and keep her calm and make her think he wants to get back together. And as long as she stays calm, the brood will stay calm because the brood basically acts on her subconscious. She never sent the brood to go kill those people, but because she had those angry thoughts, they just act. They just go.
It's monkey shines.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, have you seen the recent episode of Gemstones?
No, I haven't watched any new Gemstones yet. I have not. I've been holding off to let it build up because I know I'm going to want to. Hard to go week to week on those ones for me.
Never mind then.
Sorry.
But yeah, so she's no, it had just to do with the monkey sense. But yeah, so the Brood are going off of the wife's emotions.
Yeah. So the whole idea is that she's talking to Frank, and Frank's trying to like kind of, hey, I'm here to help you and support you, and at the same time, he's like, it's almost like the scene in the new Alien movie where they like have to sneak past the face huggers and they turn the heat up in the room. It's like as long as we just like move slow and you take Candace out of there, but then she doesn't like she's on to Frank. Yeah, she's not buying into his bullshit at all.
She has that great, facial acting and going, wait, you don't want me. I'll rather, and she starts going to her monologue about like, I rather Candy die than be with you and not with me.
Yeah, and when she says that, then you know that that's bad situation.
Well, then the big reveal is, she opens her robe up and it's this outered fetus.
The Brood are her children, but not in the way like traditionally that you would think of. She's like basically creating these little egg parasites that come off her in these little tumors, and she like opens it up and licks it clean, and is like cleaning it and stuff like a cat.
That I was, because we've now me and you, our eyes have had a lot of jarring images we've seen on screen. Sure. Seeing this in 1979 must have been so jarring. Seeing her like truly lick the somewhat realistic looking fetus.
Yeah, and she does have a great red dragon moment though, where she like reveals herself with the big white cloak and opens it up, and you see the weird tumor babies. And she's got I like too that she's got a main one, but she's got a couple like starters too. Like they're always in different stages.
Next time I watch it, I gotta pay attention to more of her because it was the first watch, so I was really only directed
you focused on the one big one.
Yeah, I gotta pay more to the
yeah, they were just like some little like beginners, little starters.
Yeah. But so it has that and it really does end with so Candy does run out, right? Is able to run out of the room, and
right, we have the scene where she's on the other side, like Oliver Reed gets her out of the room, they kill Oliver Reed, which again, not realistic. They should have had Oliver Reed punch at least 4 or 5 of those little
punch
things.
One because he just starts
Oliver Reed just like taking shots of whiskey and smacking.
He just blindly shoots, and it happens to shoot them right through. Right through the chest, right through wherever.
Yeah, he does nail a couple of them, like he does. But I wanted to see him go like bare knuckle brawl on a couple of them too, because Oliver Reed is notoriously like kind of like a crazy person,
I think I'll say this with this. To me, in the context of like a lot of kids and hitting, one of the funniest images on like done on screen, like running up to it, terrible example because it is a comedy, but like Step Brothers.
I knew you were gonna say something that was so funny.
Or like honestly, Will Ferrell shit. I'd be like Old School when he's.
They do a pretty good scene of that in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back when they go to get revenge on all the internet trolls. Yeah. They're like showing up at people's houses and kids answer the door. They just like beat the shit out.
So what I mean is. I don't know if like he's just kicking and punching the Brood. Depending on how it's filmed, I might go. I know it's supposed to be serious, but kind of funny.
I don't know. Like like one jumps on his back. I would have given anything to see him like grab it with one hand and like whip it across the room.
I think we might have gotten a few.
Yeah.
Just off camera, like, because, we hear a struggle for quite a bit.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I understand it's a movie. He needs to get overwhelmed. He needs to get killed. We need Candace to be in danger again. But I just would have loved to have seen him fight a few more Broods. I think it just would have been very funny.
Always, man. Oh, sorry. There's the G. No, they... So that and...
Well, they're gonna get Candace. They're gonna get Candace. They're pulling her shirt off for some reason.
And like we're gonna comment. That was like, oh, okay, we're going to this well again. But no, Frank, very with no fight at all, because she kind of accepts and she's out of her mind.
Yeah.
chokes his wife to death and saves his daughter.
Yeah, and all the, like, when she dies, the brood all shut down. It's like Independence Day rules. When you take out the mainframe, all the...
Of course, and it's her, and it's her trauma is dead, but it's not, because...
Well, first of all, I mean, like, even if we didn't get, like, we're going to get to the very last little stinger, but even if that wasn't the case, all the shit Candace has seen, she is going to be fucked up forever. Like, she saw Oliver Reed getting mobbed by those things, getting his face bitten and shit. Like, she saw so much horrible stuff. She saw her dad strangle her mom, probably. Like, she probably saw her mom lick the fetus. She probably saw some messed up stuff.
I don't know if she saw the mom lick the fetus, but she got close.
Maybe not that fetus.
Oh,
we
yeah,
don't know
she
how,
was there for
based
a
on the
while.
amount of broods, she could have seen some shit. We know how fast she's producing those broods. She could be popping out one a day.
And she was there for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was visiting weekly, so you actually now have to imagine that.
And we know she saw the brood kids before because they're the ones who bit and hit her and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
that was
Oliver Reed basically tells him that's what happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't the mom who attacked Candace, it was the brood, but they were acting on the mom's emotions,
And they had And I think, like, going back to the first kill, I think the brood, like, tucked her in at night and put her to sleep. How she looks up on this...
They talk about the cops find her in bed, and she said she was slept through the whole thing. And then, but I do like, too, that they're like, but she was acting so weird, we called the psychiatrist anyway.
And the psychiatrist is like, listen, I think she saw some things.
Yeah, the psychiatrist is like, oh, this girl saw some shit.
Such a deep... So did one of the broods, like, put her... Be like, okay, the one that she saw...
I do love the idea of the brood, like, taking her upstairs and tucking her in, like,
because
okay.
Because this almost alludes to us that the brood, she's met them before because she's been going to see her mother.
I mean, I'd say it's implicit that she met them before, because if they're the ones who did the initial attack that were the bruises that got Frank concerned in the first place, so she had to be interacting with them on some level. So
maybe they have that relationship. They're like, and here's some sleepy time tea.
That's why when she saw them at the and they led her out of the room and then were walking down the road, she was just like, okay, I guess we're just going on.
So this is what I do.
I know these guys. This is where we go.
Yeah. So
these freaky little monkeys.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, the final like shot is they're driving away, and the dad's distraught. Like you said, he's worried about getting out of there, and he is still neglectful in that sense. Like he's driving her away. And two things happen with this. We get tears out of her eyes, which she's been emotionless this whole time as a kid. Yeah. And the bumps are forming on her skin now because you pass down your generational trauma, and this is now going to start her journey to become her mother, basically.
Becoming a brood mother.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought it was excellent. There was a minute in it, I will say, where I was like, okay, what is this? I don't know if I've got it. And then when we very much reached the end, I was like, nah, this is
like, yeah, they're like a means to an end, but I do think the therapy scenes are kind of the weakest. There's a lot of repetition in them, and there's a lot of kind of like,
it's very 70s horror. I mean, and it's not an insult. It's not an insult. 70s horror. It's also like, if you look at it, it's very like early filmmaker stuff too. Like,
you know what this movie reminded me of? Firestarter, the Drew Barrymore movie. There's like some vibes. I felt like that. It has that same kind of feel to it.
Yeah. It which, I will say I'll take sometimes I wish we could go back to some of that filmmaking.
Oh, I love that style actually.
Where it is like, oh, why are these, like, if you look at all these movies, like especially 70s horror or even serious drama, it's like, oh, it's just like a lot of talking in offices.
Yeah absolutely.
It's a lot of concerned people going to experts going, what's wrong, and then like and then a barely explanation, and then being like, here, go see Robert Schumacher, and he's the psychiatry professor at Harvard. So, but no, Brood, I said I weirdly didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But I am happy.
Yeah, you're a braver man than I. Very rarely will buy anything I've never seen.
The 50% off Criterion sale for certain things, I'm like, okay, great. I'll throw a couple of I'll buy things that I'm like 80% confident that I'll be like, oh no, I'll like this. And if I don't like this, like I said, I know this sounds terrible. I don't mind a thing like that sitting on my shelf or someone maybe they're cool to go, ooh, you got the Brood? Ooh, Freddy got fingered?
This guy's cool.
Ooh, this guy's weird. He is Freddy got fingered in 2025.
I bought that like recently.
Yeah, I
saw a used DVD and I was like, I'm having that.
I bought the DVD, but there's only a DVD. I bought the DVD. Actually, that's something people want a Criterion of, but that. I bought the DVD when we did it for Flyover, like used on eBay because it's cheap DVD. No, that's one where Criterion Channel put it on their channel.
Did they really?
Because they did a whole like misunderstood or like cult movie like streaming month. So people were like, "Oh my God, does this mean one day there's a lane for this to happen?" And I'm like, I don't really think so, but Criterion has had some surprises in there.
Sure.
Like the one that I think is going to be coming, and I've been at least outspoken about it, and this tries horror is like, there's this belief that Jennifer's Body one day is going to get that Criterion release because of how it's been really acclaimed and rediscovered. And this, I still think the movie is pretty fun, but not as great as its rediscovery.
Yeah.
I get the message. Yeah. But that's one. Like every Halloween, Criterion is like we showed on our channel. But from what I've learned, the streaming channel does not relate anything to.
No, not really. Yeah.
Put out supplementally. But yeah, man, it's but with back to this Cronenberg. I think they did either his director approved, like the way they have the shit with like Wes.
Sure. Like his, director.
Like Wes Anderson. Like you get every movie of Wes Anderson.
Where you watch over the remaster or whatever.
Yeah. But no, I'm happy to watch it. I'm definitely something I'd want to watch again for sure. I think.
Yeah, like I said, I'd only seen it once, but I was excited to revisit it when you brought it up. I liked it.
I think it will make it into the winter horror category. Put it that way. Hey,
what those cold weather horror movies?
Yeah, cold weather, not Halloween. Not spooky season horror movie. Cold weather horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah, this would be a good one. A lot of snowsuits.
Yeah,
a lot of little creatures running around looking like Andy from the first Child's Play.
Oh, Andy. Oh. A little Danny Torrance in there.
Yeah, good little Danny Torrance in, I'm sure.
But no, man, I'm good. That's I've said everything I've wanted to say about.
No, I think that's an episode, man. I think
that's an episode, and maybe a short episode. We'll find out.
But give me a little tight.
Yeah,
we did talk a lot of bullshit at the beginning. We always do.
Not as much as we normally do. All right. Well, that is it. You know where to find us. As always, stay frightful. Bye.